Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the last and final part to Datastream, Chapter 33. Not going to lie, it's really nice to have a student who's so disciplined in their quirk training, Izuku said to Toya, as he was watching the currently 12-year-old boy focus on creating a low-temperature flame. Izuku glanced at the thermostat and saw that Toya's flames were at 17 degrees. Not even Shouto progressed this quickly. I'd like to think I have a little more experience in training to my limit than my baby brother, Toya grumbled. Izuku laughed. Yeah, and I guess I was sort of responsible for him falling out of practice with super intense training. After all, I did make sure I got the trash fire arrested when he was your age. Izuku smirked at Toya. Toya's flames went out. Wait, what? That was you? Toya was looking at Izuku with huge, starry eyes. You are my personal god. I always wanted to know who got that shit stain locked up, but I never thought it'd be my soon-to-be brother-in-law. Izuku laughed and blushed. Brother-in-law? I said soon-to-be, Toya grinned. I've seen the way my baby brother looks at you. It's only a matter of time. Izuku covered his blushing face with both hands. Shut up, he whined to Toya's amusement. Okay, can we get back on topic? Uncle, I want to commit a homicide. Can I commit a homicide? Izuku flopped onto the couch right on top of Shouta, who was lounging and grading papers. That depends, Shouta grunted after having a whole-ass teenager land on him. Who do you want to commit this homicide on, and how are you going to ensure you're not caught? I haven't thought about the cover-up yet, but I want to homicide Shouto's dad. Prison isn't enough for what he's done, Izuku growled. Shouta started carting his hand through Izuku's hair. What did he do? Izuku nuzzled his face into Shouta's chest and grumbled out. It's Toya. If Enji had thought to take him to a legitimate quirk counselor when he was little, he might not have ever gotten as bad as he did. Toya's quirk's amazing. It's super similar to Shouto's. He can create fire that's every bit as cold as Shouto's ice, but doesn't create ice, and it's so much colder. He was able to get to negative 459 degrees. Shouta's hand paused in Izuku's hair as he blinked. Izuku raised his head and looked at Shouta. I know. Crazy, right? He flopped his head back down. There's more. Just like Shouto, he needs to regulate his temperature, so he has to use both hot and cold flames. If he doesn't use the cold flames, he'll burn himself, but if he doesn't use the hot flames, he'll get hypothermia. His quirk is exactly what Enji had been looking for all along. He was just too stupid to realize it. Shouta huffed a laugh. As much as I'm sure you want to, no, you cannot just kill him. He's already in prison, and he's not getting out anytime soon. Fine. Shouta raised an eyebrow as he looked at Izuku pouting. Do I need to put him on round-the-clock surveillance to make sure you don't do something? No. Good. Shouta kept playing with Izuku's hair. What do you want for dinner? Shouta changed the subject. Don't care. Anything's fine. We had Katsudan already this week. Tenko, formerly known as Shigaraki Tomura, had, after half a year, finally gotten far enough in his reform program to allow online games again, and he, of course, had reached out to Izuku to get his sister's name back. After agreeing, Tenko made a new priest. The two of them had been playing together for a few weeks, and Tenko decided to bring up a subject he had been thinking about for a few days. So I was in therapy on Wednesday, right? Sure. I mean, I don't have your therapy schedule memorized, but if you say so. Dick. Anyways, I was thinking about something. My therapist was asking about what I would do to act out, and I told her I was just throwing temper tantrums and decaying whatever was around me for shits and giggles. I'm not sure why I thought of it, but I remember Kurogiri doing things like subtle acting out. In what way? Well, it was really stupid. But he knew I didn't like mango or pineapple-flavored things, but he would always give me mango-flavored water, or he would make pineapple cake. He only did those when I did something that would upset him, though. Yeah, that's pretty subtle. You don't think he just forgot? If someone threw chairs at you and decayed everything in sight, all while screaming at you about how they don't fucking like mango, would you forget? Ah, I see your point. Continue. Other than that, he was obedient. Too obedient. Almost like a Nomu. That is a disturbing thought. Excuse me while I run this past a few people. Izuku came back to his senses and looked up. He was in Nezu's office, sitting in his super comfortable chair that was next to his desk. Izuku was in his second year of UA, and since Izuku was the acting vice principal, Nezu had decided that Izuku should have a desk in the office. Not that Izuku ever really used it or needed it, but a vice principal needed to have a desk. He'd be getting his own office after next year when he officially became the vice principal. It would help when he needed to intimidate someone. "Hey, Sensei, there might be an issue, or no, a problem? Or something. It's definitely a something," Izuku said, not too sure how to describe this. "Oh? What is it, pup?" Nezu smiled. "You know how I love dealing with somethings." "I'm chatting with Tenko, and he mentioned something about Kurogiri. He thinks he might have been a Nomu." Izuku paused. "I'm not too sure what to do with this information, honestly." Nezu's smile froze, and he blinked at Izuku. "Well, this is certainly something." "Seriously, so you see why I don't know what to do with this, right?" "Yes. Can you ask him where he thinks Kurogiri might be at this moment, or where he last saw him?" Tenko hadn't known where Kurogiri would be, but he gave them the address of the last hideout they had been at, hoping the heroes would be able to find clues as to where Kurogiri had gone. What no one had suspected was for him to still be there. Kurogiri had been waiting for Master Shigaraki Tomura to return. He hadn't put up much of a fight when he was getting arrested, and was soon in a medical research facility. They'd been able to confirm that he was indeed a Nomu, and Izuku was doing research in his spare time to help the doctors figure out a way to reverse the effects of the nomification. In the meanwhile, he helped to announce the sports festival again. He had originally been planning to announce side-by-side with Uncle and Papa, but his starlight had come down with the flu the day before the festival and was sitting out the event. Izuku chose to sit in the stands with him to keep him company, while their moonlight participated. Hitoshi, however, didn't have a reason to win the sports fest this year, so he purposely fell behind the rest of the class, finishing the first event in 73rd place, not qualifying for the second event. He made sure to bring snacks to both of his boyfriends when he joined them in the stands to cheer on Nato and Denki. Nato had managed to win the tournament that year, with Denki taking second place and Yaoyorozu tying for third with Bakugo. While the class was on their work studies after the sports fest, Izuku and the doctors made a breakthrough with Kurogiri. Shirakumo Oboro. Uncle, Papa, and Auntie Nem were all emotional wrecks when they got the news about their former friend, and Izuku doubled his efforts to free him from the effects of the quirks controlling him. It took another couple months, but shortly before summer break, Shirakumo Oboro was his own person again. His once blue floaty hair was now dark purple, and his quirk had not been able to be returned to his former cloud quirk, staying as a warp gate, but he was back to himself. The years as Kurogiri had taken their toll on him, however, and he was adamantly against the idea of attempting to become a hero now. His warp gate quirk would be incredibly useful for hero work, but after the past 15 years of forced villainy, he decided he wanted an easy life. He swore to keep in contact with everyone, but he wanted to be on his own for a while. And so the second year at UA passed. The new Big Three were announced, and both Nato and Hitoshi had to threaten to quit school for their names to be rescinded as part of the group, so officially the Big Three consisted of Shouto, Denki, and Bakugo. Bakugo had, surprisingly, accepted the position as one of the Big Three, even though he knew that spot should have been Hitoshi's. He had long since calmed down and finally seemed to understand that not everything was about him. Both Hitoshi and Nato were aiming for underground heroics, so calling attention to themselves in this way was a bad idea for their career goals. Denki had kissed Nato full on the lips when he discovered he was one of the Big Three, and so started their year of flirting, much to the amusement of Izuku and Hitoshi, while Shouto was placing bets with the rest of the class on when they would officially get together. The current odds were that they would continue to dance around the other until after graduation, which is exactly what they did. Shouto used the money from his winnings to buy rings for Hitoshi and Izuku, and the week after graduation the three were engaged. Their wedding was small. Only close family and friends attended. Tenko sat with Uncle and Papa for most of the evening, but got caught up in conversation with Toya once the subject of video games came up. Tenko had just gotten a job at the company Tempest as a game designer. By the time Toya had graduated UA, he had decided that he wanted to be an underground hero. He didn't want to have all the attention that his brother had, after all. Even with dyeing his hair black again, he still looked a lot like his father, and didn't want anyone to make the comparison between Endeavor and Azure. By the time Aries started UA, she had decided that she didn't want to be a hero at all. Instead, she wanted to be a healer. Aerie had mastered her quirk with her brother's guidance, and she wanted to be able to help. "Honestly, it's about freaking time he retired," Hitoshi grumbled as he watched Shouto fixing Izuku's tie. After all these years, Izuku still couldn't tie a tie properly. "The rat gods had you doing all his work for 10 years. Izuku laughed. "Yeah, but it's been fun. And I'm going to miss watching him terrorize the students and staff every day. For the past 10 years, Izuku had handled all the affairs of running the school, including the few occurrences that needed the actual principal's attention. Nezu would just make sure he was the one to actually present or sign whatever Izuku had prepared. But all that would change today. Nezu was retiring from his role as principal of UA and was going to put all his focus towards his hero work. I just find it difficult to believe that both Shouta and Hisashi are retiring too, Shouto muttered, giving his shorter husband a kiss as he finished his tie. When the three had gotten married, both Hitoshi and Shouto had decided to take the name Aizawa, neither having any positive attachments to their original names. When they had done that, both Shouta and Hisashi had insisted that they start calling them by their given names. They're only retiring from hero work. They're still going to be teaching. Honestly, Izuku didn't know what he'd do if he had to replace those two at the school. Uncle Shouta would probably make him buy his own sleeping bag. Izuku was happy that they were retiring from hero work. They were both 41, and they had both had incredibly successful careers. Papa was still going to be keeping his radio shows once a week, but he had officially handed over the station to Jiro last year, and was only staying on to be her backup. Uncle had decided that since Hitoshi was able to keep up with him, he was able to comfortably pass down the title of top underground hero to his purple son-in-law. Do you think Nato's finally going to propose to Denki tonight? Hitoshi asked. I mean, they've been living together for like 5 years now. With a smirk, Shouto said. If he doesn't, Denki will. He told me yesterday that he'd picked out a ring, and was just waiting for a special occasion. And Nezu's retirement party is a special occasion? Izuku asked. You know Denki. Any gathering is a special occasion, regardless of who the party is for. Besides, Hitoshi interjected, you know Nezu will find it amusing. I think the only reason he's even allowing us to throw the party is because he's hoping those two will use it as an opportunity to get engaged. I really wish I could say you were wrong, Izuku muttered. But he would do something like that just for the fun of it. By the end of the night, Denki and Nato were officially engaged. All right, listeners, this concludes the fic data stream. I had so much fun podficking this one. This one is just one of those fics that I can reread at any point and never get tired of it. I'm really eager to hear what you all thought of the fic as a whole, and if you liked it enough, go over to AO3 and leave comments and kudos to the author as well. Thank you all so much for your amazing support and for listening.